miss us because we miss you. Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Advocates Spring Sports Preview Special Edition. For this episode, we're talking to the one, the only, the man. Well, there's actually quite a few people like this, but in this case, the man who wears a lot of hats. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get to our talk with Bear Lake baseball coach John Prokes. Joining us now over the phone is a man that wears, well, quite frankly, a lot of hats. Robotics coach, science teacher, football coach, but for today, we're talking about baseball. Joining us now is Bear Lake baseball coach, Mr. John Prokes. John, happy Friday. How are we feeling today?
Hey, pretty good, thank you. Great talking to you guys again.
John, I wanted to ask you, for starters, you guys are coming off of a district title, a competitive game against Boyne City in that regional. And you lose a couple of seniors here with Jake Griffiths and Nate Sanderson. And if I'm forgetting anybody else, please mention them. But just sort of the expectations of this group for starters and who you have coming back.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Anytime you come off of a great season like we had last year, and you look at the core guys that kind of made that happen, and they're all leaving. You mentioned, Jake, we had Bryce, we had Nate Sanderson, I had Luke, and we had Kevin. Those were 5 key seniors that started for us. So, you're looking at your lineup. You look at 5 guys that you got to replace in the lineup from your district championship game, and that's tough to do. But, each year, each team has their own identity, and that's kind of what we mentioned to our guys the first day of practice is last year's team was last year's team. They moved on, and now it becomes your team. And how hard you practice and how hard you play and what kind of success you're going to have is going to identify you guys. So we move on from that, but yet we use that as kind of an incentive for us too, because, those guys worked hard last year, and we've got guys, 4 of the starters that were on that team are returning back, obviously. So they're going to kind of try to carry the load on their shoulders now and hopefully give us a follow-up, a competitive and successful season.
How important is it to use what happened last season and what those kids did as a measuring stick, but as you said, for the current kids to understand, that they have to take a little bit more ownership now, and there's a little bit more accountability there than maybe there was last year?
Yeah, no, that's a great point, as always. Each year somebody's got to step up and be accountable and look at how hard the kids worked before them and what sort of success they had. And, after our program was kind of on the shelf for a few years, I think it was like 10 to 12 years, so we didn't have a baseball team. We've come back, and last year I think was our 5th or 6th year, and, each year we've been getting better. So that's what kind of the expectations are for these kids is each year build on the success of the previous year and continue to establish their own identity and get better and be competitive. We don't go into the season expecting to be conference champs, district champs, regional champs, whatever every year, but you say we're going to play as hard as we can and be as competitive as we can and improve and see where that takes us. And you look at our record over the past 6 years and we've improved consistently, so we kind of expect to do that.
John, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about some of those kids that are returning and any newcomers that you're excited for or anybody that's trying out for the team for the first time.
Yeah, no, we've got guys that were key players for us last year. Of course, Jake's brother, Zach, will be on the team this year, and he had a huge bat for us. He was right there neck and neck with his brother Jake. He's coming back. We got Cole Merrill. He's returning from that starting lineup for us. We got the 2 Harless brothers, who are starters on our district championship team as 8th graders and both batted over 400. They're only freshmen this year, but those guys play at a senior maturity level. So, we've got those 2 guys coming back. We got Nathaniel Ruiz. We got Travis Huey. These are all guys that were on the district championship varsity team last year, and they're coming back. So they're going to have to step in. And, we had enough guys last year to have a JV squad, and we started off the season, struggling with our abilities, and we finished playing really good baseball, our JV guys. And so now we're expecting a couple of those guys to step up and follow that success that they had on the JV level on our varsity squad, hopefully to win for those guys. So, that's what we're doing. We're taking the guys from last year and hopefully they're better and then taking the guys that had some success last year at our lower level, and hopefully they can fill in those gaps for us.
I know every year every team has a little bit different dynamic, whether it be chemistry or personalities or whatnot, but I know it's kind of early on. You guys haven't had a full squad practice yet, but knowing the kids as well as you do, how do you feel that chemistry dynamic might go this year?
I think that's great, and that's an important point. The culture we're trying to establish, and the bond that the kids have. Following up on our theme for the football season was we got your six, and the kids understand what that means, and it's kind of carried over into our baseball season and baseball program. We're really looking out for each other, and what I noticed our first week of practice is guys are really bonded well. They're complimenting each other well. They're competitive, but not against each other. Just they're working to help each other improve and real encouraging to each other. So that's kind of nice to see.
You kind of mentioned the "got your six" mentality, which I absolutely love that phrase. But I mean, where did, at least for you guys, where did the roots of that phrase come from?
Yeah, each year we kind of let the kids kind of come up with their theme, and they tossed around some ideas. And you remember, I think Coach Sam Mullet, she came back, and she's got some NFL experience and things like that. And she came back this year and was able to help us, and she kind of came up with that idea based on what the kids were talking about. They didn't really know about "we got your six," and they were all saying, "Hey, what do we do?" Well, we all have each other's back. And then when she brought that statement up, everybody kind of said, "Yeah, I like that," and it clicked. So I can't take any credit for that. That's all my assistant coach Sam Mullet's credit.
John, I wanted to ask you sort of about continuity. You have Sam on the staff. You have her in football. You have a lot of the same kids here who you know quite well and have coached before, so maybe you know a little bit more about their physical talents, their mental capacity for battling through adversity and such. Do you feel knowing these kids and having been around them for so long through another sport benefits the baseball team as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. It's small school as we are, you see these kids, and they're all athletes, and they're going to play all the sports there because you need them, and they have that opportunity to. So yeah, I look at I think pretty much our entire baseball team, with the exception of maybe two guys, played on the football team. So it helps a lot because they know what my expectations are. I know what their capabilities are, and as you mentioned, mentally, what you can do to each player. You can't push them all the same. They're all different. They're unique individuals. So each one has their different trigger, and the key is just finding that, making sure they all fire at the same time. So it definitely helps, though. Yeah, having for the kids to have the same coaches, and for the coaches to kind of have the same players, because you recognize that mentality, and you can work with their strengths and improve on their weaknesses.
John, I'm sure you have a list already, or a personal list maybe of goals, or maybe you've sat down with the team briefly and discussed it, fairly quickly. But what are some of the goals for this team this year that you have, and what are the keys to achieving those?
Yeah, obviously we want to have as much success as we can. Winning that's important. You're at a varsity level program. Your goal has got to be to win as many games as you can, but you can't control that outcome because of circumstances, but all you can do is go out there and make sure that you play as hard and as competitive as you can. And more importantly, especially at a high school level, is just making sure you're having fun playing the game. You can't go out there and small school, big school, but be miserable because you're not having a good time because of coaches or players or teammates. So we really kind of stress the emphasis of, look, we want to have success. We want to win. And we want to push you hard. We want you to be competitive, but you better have fun playing this game. And if you don't have your heart in it, then I don't know what you're doing here. And we preach it all the time. I'd rather have just 9 guys that are passionate about the game rather than 20 that could care less or that think they're going to step up there and win a championship every year. Just give me guys that care, and they're passionate about the game, and they're willing to put it all out there for themselves and their teammates, and that's what we're looking for. So how we measure success is after every game, hey, did we play our best game? Did we play as competitive as we could? Did we minimize our mistakes? And then when we go to the next game, did we improve on those mistakes? And if you can say that you're improving every game, and by the end of the year you're playing your best baseball with your abilities, then I think that was a great year.
Well, John, thank you so much for taking time out of your absolutely busy schedule. Best luck to you this season.
Hey, thank you. Great talking to you guys.